I have spoken about advisors several times, but I have never taken the time of showing you how you can maximize the value of advisor. Let me start with this section. When you have an offense, and more on that later, that has been either manually or automatically investigated by advisor, you get this result that comes back saying, is this a high priority or low priority, right? And as you can see in my case, advisor came back saying is high priority, and I said I agree with it. And by the way, this is very important to provide feedback to advisor on what is high priority and low priority. Why? Well, every customer's environment is different. Every log sources, the network topology, the type of business they are in. So what might be high priority for public utility might not be a high priority for a bank, and vice versa. So it is very important that if you want to derive value from here higher than chance, you need to provide feedback. And the numbers are, once you have provided around 50% of your offenses with this type of feedback, then you can begin to say that your curator is tuned for you to tell you whether this is a false positive or not. And that's the important thing. And behind this, there is a model. And it's an AI model. I'm not an expert on that thing, but basically it is one in which it's called supervised learning, in which it's kind of showing you pictures of an object in order for you to get the machine to recognize that object when it sees it on a different angle, on a different time. Well, the same thing is here. This is a model that is being trained to determine whether something is high priority or low priority. That's all it does, but with huge amounts of data in a very fast time. Once you provide feedback, when you have reached that level, let's say that you have sent around 700 offenses over a period of time, or 50% of your total offenses if you don't get that very many offenses. Once you have provided that feedback, and give it a few days, and there are some protections that the tool has in order to avoid have the attack named adversarial input, in which somebody is on purpose trying to confuse the thing. So let's say that you, especially at the beginning, you tell, well, your senior SOC person is the one that is going to be providing feedback about your environment, provided that you have done that for a certain period of time. What we have seen is that the tool is capable of identifying around 82% of the false positive, meaning things that, this is a low priority, so don't spend too much time on it. And 75% of the false negative, meaning something that would have come as a low priority may go under the rock and without you being seen it. Again, if you want to be with around between 75 and 85%, because you're not going to get it perfect each and every time, but that is a big help once you move it into those numbers. If you start using this without providing feedback, it's not going to be much better than chance, to be honest. What kind of data points are used for this supervised learning? Well, basically it's the data that you find in the offense. Is the rule name important? Because it can derive, remember, this is an engine that understands spoken language, so the name you give, if you have a custom rule that you created, the name is actually going to be meaningful to advisor. Is the type of log sources, the mitred attacks techniques that the tactics and technique that have been found, the toxicity of those items, the threat intelligence data that advisor has about everything that is out there. Remember, this is the engine that play Jeopardy so well, so it understands. It's not a Google translator. It understands the meaning of language, and it has been trained over the years on security, the meaning of security words. So it takes all those pieces of information, and then that is what it comes back very quickly with gigantic decision trees and tells you this is high or low priority. In order for Advisor to work well, there is some tuning you need to do. And again, I'm sorry if you have given the impression that this is auto magic, but there's no such a thing, at least not yet. And the best help is there is this app, which is called the Curator Assistant app. It's a free app on the App Exchange. You probably have seen it before. And in this particular app, when you install it, there is a Watson integration icon. When you click on it, there's this button, Am I Watson Ready? And the thing is going to go over your system, and it's going to be smart enough to know about how many offenses do you have, whether you need some tuning because you have way too many offenses and we cannot do anything with it. This system held these offenses, and you can read for yourself in here once you install this. The network topology, the threat feeds. For example, in my case, it's telling me you're kind of ready, but you don't have, and more on that later, you haven't tell me what are your assets are important. And in this, you will also see that you haven't told me which your executive are and some of the critical assets and critical people. So because I can help you more if you provide me this information. But once you have run this and has basically almost everything or all of them in red, then you're ready to have your trial with Advisor. But you're not going to get this green rather, unless you tell Advisor a few things. So I'm here on the admin tab under the Advisor configuration. Couple of things that you need to do. This is very, very important. I have stated this in previous videos, but it's not a waste to actually do it again. Here are the custom properties. So let's talk about, for example, hashes. Here, you may have a particular technology that produces hashes and call them SHA-256 hash, file hash, process hash, this hash, that hash. Well, Advisor may take a guess and may get it correctly identified as, okay, this is a hash, but it may not be the case. So it is important that you go from here and you look. I will start with hashes because that is the piece that gives unequivocal evidence of malware. But you need to make sure that you have this property mapping revised. Otherwise, let's say that you have a hash over a strange name and you pass those logs are part of an offense that fires and is sent to Advisor. If Advisor doesn't make the connection automatically and this is identified that as one type of hash, then it will not be able to look in its immense corpus of knowledge for anything related to that hash. So this is step number one. Make sure that you revise this and you are comfortable with that. The rest of the tuning is really on this section, on the optional settings. I would not call them that optional though. And you see why. In here, the automatic investigation, couple of points in here. Well, you know that QRadar in every offense uses the relevance, the severity. In fact, we can actually go back to, we can come back here. But if we go to any offense, this is what I'm referring to, this magnitude. And notice that it's based on those three components. This is relevance, which is, how relevant, as the name implied, it is to this particular offense. The severity, this typically comes from the vendor, and it tells you what type of, how severe is that thing, and how the credibility is how well tuned your particular you consider that box that you are using is actually set up. And these are stuff that you can configure. Typically, when you define the DSM, you can set these values up, right? But then Advisor uses that information. You can use that information in Advisor to configure it. So let me go back here, go to optional settings on the automatic investigation. You can say, well, if the magnitude is 5 or higher, then automatically investigate. If it's too low, don't even bother. And you can play with this bar as much as you want. And I believe that this thing starts with in this way. Yeah, this is the way that it starts. So I click in this button and actually set this up. Other piece in here, start time and Last event flow. As you know, an offense, if it keeps getting stuff that is indexed by the same parameter as the offense, it will keep adding those logs and flows to the offense. So it doesn't create a new offense. So this time is basically saying, well, if you were to launch the investigation the minute that the offense is open, you may miss additional pieces of information that are going to come later as part of the attack, of the incident. So at least 30 minutes is not a bad idea to make sure that you have gathered enough information about it. If you consider that that time should be higher, so play that actual number. And you can do this for any offense that is open or active. And you know that the offense is inactive, becomes inactive when 5 days has passed without getting new events or logs or flows that add to that offense, and the offense is considered inactive. So you can actually do it on the ones open or the ones that are not inactive. And in here, the default is this: all offenses high-level categories. And here you have the high-level category from your parsers of your events, but you can actually tailor these by selecting this and then move things, only the things that you are interested in. Okay. And the offense types, same thing as before. You can specify which of them you actually want to select or not. I don't see any reason why not enable enrich investigation. More on that later. So that's automatic investigation. Few more things. Asset investigation. That's the thing that advisor was complaining on my analysis on my system. Say, well, you haven't told me what are your critical assets in your environment. And basically you do that by going in. When you click in here, QRadar goes into my assets, reference sets that have asset information. And for example, if I want to add critical assets, I'll put it in here, and I can play with the actual priority. Let me give to the critical access, let's give it critical level 10, right? And then once I've done that, and in fact, I want to keep this video short, but if I wanted to redone this evaluation, then you'll see that check mark will appear in green. But don't do it just for the check mark. Make sure that you go into all your reference sets on your assets and provide the right information. Now, I'm going to do some more talking later about your executive people, your key people, and that is done on the UBA. It's not done over here. Now, another piece that provides advisor with very valuable information is closing reason. And I'm going to show you in the next video, because this one is already getting too long, how you set up reasons when you close the offense. So don't close the offense, and don't miss a chance of providing information to advisor once you close an offense. So make sure, and I'll show you in the next video how you do that, how you define your closing reasons so you can feed advisor with that information. Reference set import. I have shown you, and we'll do it again in the next video, when you get an offense, you can add the blue stuff that has been found into your reference sets into your QRadar. So basically, this is that section in there. Threat intelligence data is that in here you tell out of your reference set what are the important stuff that you want advisor after it has found all the blue stuff, everything that is possible there. I want you to go into my offenses, into my logs, into my flows, but also onto my reference set and see if you find any connection. If one of those IPs is in one of my reference sets, or for example critical assets or this or that or whatever. So make sure that you revise this, and all these categories for seeing URL, username, reflect the name of your reference set. And I know that this is a lot to ask, but if you don't do this, you are not going to get all the possible value that you can get out of the advisor. I'm stopping this video here, and I'm going to continue this setting on the second part of it.